The keys belong to Lady Beatrice now, the Duke of Blackmere announced before 40 servants, removing the iron ring from his wife's waist with his own hand. Until every missing piece of the family silver is recovered, Eleanor will hold no authority in this castle. A murmur passed through the great hall. Eleanor felt the cold iron scrape across her palm before Adrian pulled it away. For 6 years, those keys had opened the storerooms, the tenant's office, the medicine closet, and every guest chamber beneath Blackmere's roof. They represented work no one noticed until it failed. Now her husband placed them in the hands of the woman who had accused her. Lady Beatrice accepted the ring with a faint smile. Adrian's widowed cousin had arrived at Blackmere 3 months earlier wearing mourning silk and claiming poverty. Since then, she had occupied the seat beside him at dinner, answered questions meant for Eleanor, and filled every private silence with suspicion. The servants will obey Lady Beatrice as they once obeyed the Duchess, Adrian continued. Eleanor will remain in the West apartments until the royal inspection is complete. Remain. He had chosen a gentler word than confinement, but every servant understood it. Eleanor looked at the 2 footmen stationed near the doors. Both men lowered their eyes. "You searched my rooms this morning," she said. "You found no silver. We found the storeroom ledger in your writing desk. Because I corrected it after 12 spoons disappeared, and 3 serving dishes." After Lady Beatrice dismissed the under-butler who counted them, Beatrice's fingers tightened around the keys. Adrian noticed. His jaw hardened, not against his cousin, but against his wife. "This is precisely why I did not permit you to question the household," he said. "You turn every answer into another accusation." Eleanor had seen that expression before. Adrian wore it whenever the truth threatened a decision he had already made. He had been offered a choice that morning. Wait one day while Eleanor compared the inventories, or humiliate her before the king's envoy arrived. He had chosen humiliation. Then asked Beatrice where she was when the silver cabinet was opened. Eleanor said quietly. A few servants glanced up. Beatrice laughed once, too sharply. "Must I account for every hour merely because you cannot account for the Duke's property?" Eleanor's gaze dropped to the ring in Beatrice's hand. Among the familiar brass and iron shapes hung a narrow black key she had never seen. Red dust clung to its teeth. Fresh brick dust. That was impossible. Eleanor had supervised the repair of Blackmere's eastern foundations after a winter flood. She had studied every wall, chimney, blocked passage, and supporting arch. Her late father, an estate surveyor, had taught her to read a building as other women read embroidery patterns. No recorded door in Blackmere Castle required such a key. "Where did that come from?" she asked. Beatrice closed her hand around it. Before she could answer, the main doors opened. A grey-haired man, in a dark travelling coat, entered with 2 royal guards. Rain glistened on his shoulders, and a leather document case rested beneath one arm. "Sir Matthew Vale, acting under the authority of His Majesty," the steward announced. Adrian stepped forward. "You were not expected until tomorrow." The Crown's concern did not permit delay. Sir Matthew's eyes moved from Adrian to Beatrice, then settled on Eleanor. He took in the servants, the guards, and the empty place at her waist. "Your Grace," he said to her, "are you free to leave this castle?" The question struck the hall into silence. Eleanor looked at Adrian. His face changed for only an instant. "My wife is not a prisoner," he said. "Aye, then she may accompany us." "No." The answer came too quickly. Sir Matthew placed his document case on the long dining table. "On what grounds do you refuse?" "She is under household restriction while I investigate a theft." A conveniently timed restriction. Adrian's voice sharpened. "Take care, sir." But the envoy had already opened the case. He removed a yellowed plan secured by red ribbon and spread it across the table. The drawing showed Blackmere's towers, staircases, service corridors, and chapel wing. Eleanor recognized the work of Nicholas Bell, a royal surveyor who had inspected the castle more than a century earlier. Sir Matthew pointed to a narrow chamber drawn inside the eastern wall. "I must examine this room before sunset." Adrian bent over the plan. "There is no room there." That was also the Crown's belief until we received 6 letters from inside it. Eleanor moved closer, despite the guards. The chamber lay between the old chapel and the library, exactly where she had once noticed an unexplained difference between the outer and inner measurements. Adrian had dismissed her concern because opening the wall would have disrupted his autumn hunting party. Sir Matthew removed one folded letter. The writer claims she was locked inside this room after discovering that Blackmere Castle was being used to conceal stolen royal correspondence. Beatrice took one step backward. Eleanor heard the keys strike softly against her skirt. "Who wrote the letters?" Adrian asked. Sir Matthew looked directly at Eleanor. "Your wife." A servant gasped. "I wrote no such thing," Eleanor said. "The letters bear your name, your handwriting, and a private detail concerning your marriage that the Crown believes no stranger could know." Adrian turned toward her. Doubt arrived in his eyes with insulting ease. Eleanor ignored it. She examined the chamber on the map, then the black key concealed in Beatrice's fist. Red dust, a hidden door, forged letters sent before the Crown's arrival. And now, on the very morning the envoy came to determine whether she had been imprisoned, Adrian had publicly stripped her authority and ordered her confined to one wing. The missing silver had never been the true purpose. Someone had needed Adrian to make the forged letters appear believable. Eleanor lifted her eyes to her husband. "You have not placed me under suspicion," she said. "You have completed someone else's evidence." "You have not placed me under suspicion," Eleanor said. "You have completed someone else's evidence." Adrian's face hardened. "This is not the moment for riddles." "It is not a riddle. The letters claim I was confined before the Crown intervened. This morning, you took my keys and confined me. Oh, I restricted you because property vanished. After Beatrice told you it had vanished." Lady Beatrice stepped closer to him. "Surely you do not intend to listen while she turns a royal inquiry against your own family." Eleanor almost laughed at the cruelty of that phrase. She was Adrian's lawful wife, yet Beatrice spoke as though Eleanor were the intruder. Sir Matthew folded the forged letter and returned it to his case. "The chamber first. Your quarrel may wait." Adrian looked toward the black key. Beatrice concealed it behind her skirt. Eleanor noticed Sir Matthew watching the movement. "The east corridor is sealed," Adrian said. "Part of the ceiling became unsafe last winter." "No," Eleanor replied. "The north ceiling became unsafe. I ordered it reinforced in February. The eastern passage has remained sound." Adrian frowned. "My steward said the work was unfinished." "Your steward signed the completion receipt." She could have added that the roof would have collapsed over the library if she had not discovered the rotten beam herself. She could have listed the repairs she had supervised while Adrian attended Parliament, the rents she had recovered without evicting struggling tenants, or the grain contract that had fed the servants through the previous winter. She did none of those things. A woman who recited her usefulness after being stripped of authority sounded as though she were begging to be valued. Eleanor would not beg. "I will lead the envoy there," she said. "You no longer possess the keys," Beatrice reminded her. "I designed the temporary route used during the repairs. It begins behind the chapel gallery." Sir Matthew gestured toward the door. "Then Her Grace leads." Adrian hesitated. That hesitation hurt more than his accusation. 6 years earlier, he would have trusted Eleanor to guide him through darkness with his eyes closed. He had once teased that she knew Blackmere better than the ancestors haunting it. Then his elder brother had died, leaving Adrian the title and a terror of appearing weak. Every question became a challenge. Every correction became an insult. Beatrice had learned to feed that fear. "The Duchess remains under guard," Adrian said, at last. Eleanor met his gaze. "If you place guards outside my apartments tonight, our marriage will not return to what it was yesterday." A muscle moved in his cheek. "Is that a threat?" "It is a boundary." She turned before he could answer. The household followed her through the old chapel. Beatrice walked beside Adrian, carrying the keys. Sir Matthew remained close to Eleanor, while the royal guards brought up the rear. Behind a carved wooden screen, Eleanor pressed a loose panel and exposed a narrow worker's passage. Sir Matthew raised an eyebrow. "You found this?" "My father taught me to compare exterior walls with interior measurements. Empty space inside a building is rarely truly empty." "Great." He was an architect, an estate surveyor. He repaired houses belonging to men who thanked the owner instead of the man who saved their roofs. "And you inherited his habit of noticing what others overlook." "I inherited his habit of measuring twice." It was the first respectful thing anyone had said to her that morning. They entered the workers' passage in single file. Although the corridor was said to have been abandoned, recent footprints crossed its dusty floor and ended before a section of newly repaired brickwork. Eleanor touched the pale mortar. "This was opened within the last month." Adrian stared at her. 6 months earlier, he had dismissed her, warning that the eastern wall concealed an unexplained space. Now, he remembered it too. She saw recognition enter his face, and pride force it back out. Beatrice closed one hand around the unfamiliar black key. Sir Matthew noticed. "Lady Beatrice," he said, extending his palm. "The key." Eleanor examined the floor. Fine red dust had gathered along the base of the wall, the same colour, clinging to the black key. Beatrice's breathing became shallow. "There is no door," Adrian said. "There is," Eleanor replied. "Someone has disguised it." She pressed one of the bricks. Nothing moved. Then she noticed 6 shallow scratches, forming a circle in the mortar. They aligned with the 6 teeth of the unfamiliar key. "Give it to me," she said. Beatrice drew back. "I do not know what you mean. The black key. I have never seen such a thing." Every servant in the hall had watched her hide it. Sir Matthew extended his hand. "Lady Beatrice." Adrian turned to his cousin. "Give it to him." Her eyes flashed with resentment, but she surrendered the key. Sir Matthew passed it to Eleanor. The iron was warm from Beatrice's palm. Eleanor inserted it into the concealed opening and turned. A section of brickwork released with a deep, metallic click. Behind it stood a narrow oak door. Adrian reached for the handle, but Eleanor stopped him. Eleanor opened the concealed door carefully, preserving the lock and surrounding mortar for the royal inspection. The chamber beyond had been arranged to resemble a prison. Eleanor's embroidered shawl lay across a narrow cot, while 6 letters bearing her signature rested on the writing desk. Adrian touched the shawl he had once given her. For one painful instant, Eleanor remembered the man who had wrapped it around her shoulders and promised she would never be alone at Blackmere. That man stood only a few feet away now, studying the room as though deciding whether his wife was victim or criminal. Eleanor examined the untouched water and the dust beneath the recently burned candles. "No one lived here," she said. "Someone created the appearance of a prisoner." Sir Matthew opened the desk drawer and found a list of dates. The final entry was followed by one instruction: "Move the Duchess before midnight." Sir Matthew opened the top drawer and found a list of dates, each corresponding to a forged letter received by the Crown. The final date was tomorrow. Beside it, one instruction had been written in a different hand: "Move the Duchess before midnight." Eleanor looked toward the open passage. Someone in Blackmere did not merely intend to accuse her of being imprisoned. "They intended to make me disappear," Eleanor said. Adrian seized the paper from Sir Matthew. "This could have been placed here to frighten us." "By whom?" Eleanor asked. "By whoever forged the letters. And how did that person know you would confine me today?" He had no answer. For one brief moment, doubt crossed Adrian's face. Then Beatrice stepped beside him. "Eleanor has managed every repair in this castle," she said. "She knows its hidden passages, its walls, and its locks. If anyone could arrange this chamber without being discovered, it is she." Adrian looked back at the cot and the embroidered shawl. Eleanor watched him choose the easier suspicion. Again, Sir Matthew took the instruction from his hand. "Until we determine who wrote this, the Duchess will remain under royal protection." "She is my wife," Adrian said. "Then you should be relieved that someone intends to protect her." The words struck harder than a reprimand. Adrian's cheeks darkened. Sir Matthew ordered one guard to remain outside the chamber and another to accompany Eleanor. Beatrice objected that royal soldiers would alarm the household, but the envoy ignored her. The first small shift of power was almost invisible. For the first time that day, Beatrice gave an order, and no one obeyed. Eleanor moved toward the writing desk. 6 letters had been prepared, yet the list contained 7 dates. If the final letter was meant to be sent tomorrow, it might still be somewhere inside the castle. Eleanor noticed that the desk drawer was shallower than its outer frame. She released a false bottom and found a sealed letter beside a brass button stamped with an anchor. Adrian recognized the emblem. Beatrice's late husband invested in a coastal shipping company. Beatrice's eyes flashed toward him. "It failed years ago," she said. Eleanor studied her reaction. Failed companies do not usually leave their buttons inside hidden rooms. Sir Matthew wrapped the letter and button beneath the royal seal. A cold draft moved across Eleanor's cheek. Behind the cot, they found a concealed shaft descending toward the west apartments, the very rooms where Adrian had ordered her confined. "I did not know this existed," he said. "I believe you," Eleanor replied. "You did not need to know. You only needed to give someone the keys and place me where they wanted." Beatrice's face remained composed, but one of her hands had begun to tremble. Eleanor looked directly at her. From this moment, no door is to be opened on Lady Beatrice's authority alone. You cannot command the household, Beatrice snapped. The Duke removed your authority. I am not commanding the household. I am stating the condition under which I remain in this castle. Adrian stepped between them. Enough. No, Eleanor said. You gave her my keys, without asking why a woman accused of theft needed access to every locked room. You may continue trusting her, but you will not use my safety to prove that trust. Sir Matthew supported the condition. Each locked room would require 2 people to enter, 1 Blackmere representative and 1 royal witness. Beatrice could not openly refuse without appearing afraid of observation. Eleanor had won something small but essential. No one could rearrange the castle unseen, at least not through its doors. They returned to the great hall as the royal guards entered the lower shaft. Adrian remained with Sir Matthew to examine the unopened letter. Eleanor was escorted toward the west apartments. Near the chapel gallery, she heard keys moving behind the carved screen. The royal guard turned at the sound, but Eleanor raised one finger to her lips. A woman whispered from the hidden passage. She found the shaft. Beatrice. A man answered too softly for Eleanor to recognize him. The letter will bring the crown down on her tomorrow. She will not wait until tomorrow, Beatrice said. She notices too much. There was a pause. Then the keys stopped moving. Change the plan, Beatrice whispered. Take her before the evening bell. Take her before the evening bell, Beatrice whispered. Eleanor stepped away from the carved screen before the hidden speakers could discover her. The royal guard followed without question until they reached the west corridor. Did you recognize the man's voice? Eleanor asked. No, Your Grace. Nor did I. That is why we will not accuse anyone yet. You believe Lady Beatrice means to abduct you? I believe she wants us to believe tomorrow is the dangerous day. That gives her the advantage tonight. The guard offered to take her directly to Sir Matthew, but Eleanor refused. If Beatrice saw royal soldiers gathering around her, the plan would change again. She needed to learn how they intended to reach her. Her west apartments contained 3 rooms, a sitting room, a bedchamber, and the small study Adrian had ordered searched. Eleanor entered each one slowly. Nothing appeared disturbed. That troubled her. Men searching for stolen silver would leave drawers open and rugs displaced. Instead, every chair stood neatly in place. Her writing paper had been rearranged, but her jewelry remained untouched. The search had been staged for witnesses. She crossed to the panelled wall beside the fireplace and held her palm near its carved seams. Cold air touched her skin. The hidden shaft ended somewhere behind that wall. Eleanor removed a measuring cord from her sewing box. She stretched it from the outer window to the fireplace, then compared the distance with the corridor outside. 4 feet were missing. There is a passage here, she said. The guard drew his pistol. Not yet. She examined the floor and found a shallow mark beneath the carpet. A panel opened inward, but heavy furniture had been placed against it on Eleanor's side. Whoever came through would expect the room to be empty or its occupant asleep. A knock sounded at the main door. A young maid entered carrying tea. Lady Beatrice sent this for her grace. The girl's hands shook so badly that the spoon rattled against the saucer. Eleanor did not touch the cup. What did she tell you? That you had suffered a shock and required something calming. Did you prepare it? No, Your Grace. It was waiting on the kitchen table. Who placed it there? The girl's eyes filled with fear. I do not know. Eleanor lifted the teapot lid. A sweet medicinal odour rose with the steam. She had smelled it once when a physician treated Adrian after a riding accident. Laudanum, enough to put her into a deep sleep. The guard reached for the maid, but Eleanor moved between them. She did not prepare it. She carried it, because the new mistress of the household ordered her to do so. The maid began to cry. My mother is ill, Your Grace. Lady Beatrice said we would lose our cottage if I refused. The immediate threat was no longer only against Eleanor. Beatrice was using the authority Adrian had given her to coerce servants and tenants who depended upon Blackmere. Eleanor poured the tea into an empty perfume bottle and sealed it. You will take the tray back, she told the maid. Say, I drank every drop. The girl stared at her. If Lady Beatrice discovers, she will not hear it from us. Eleanor looked at the royal guard. After a moment, he nodded. The maid's shoulders collapsed with relief. Before you go, Eleanor said, Tell me who instructed the footman to move that cabinet against the fireplace wall. The new steward, Your Grace, he said. Lady Beatrice wanted the room made warmer. There it was. Access through the hidden passage had been prepared before Eleanor was confined. Go to Sir Matthew after returning the tray, Eleanor said. Tell him exactly what happened. Do not speak to anyone else. The maid left. Eleanor and the guard moved the cabinet aside. Behind it, they found a narrow panel fitted with a newly installed handle. A length of blue mason's cord had caught around one screw. Eleanor wrapped the cord around a clean sheet of paper and placed it beside the sealed perfume bottle. Then she closed the panel, but left a small sliver of chalk inside the seam. If anyone opened it, the chalk would break. The evening bell had not yet rung when heavy footsteps approached. Adrian entered with Beatrice and 2 footmen. Beatrice looked first at the empty teacup. A flicker of satisfaction crossed her face. Then she saw Eleanor standing beside the fireplace. You should be in bed, Beatrice said. I am not tired. Adrian held up the unopened royal letter from the hidden chamber. Sir Matthew says it cannot be examined until a crown clerk arrives tomorrow. Oh, and you came here to tell me that? I came because Beatrice warned me you might attempt to escape. Eleanor looked at his cousin. Beatrice lowered her gaze modestly. I feared the accusation had distressed you beyond reason. You sent me laudanum. Adrian's head turned sharply. Beatrice pressed a hand to her chest. I sent tea. The tea contained enough laudanum to render me unconscious. That is absurd. I preserved it. For the first time, Beatrice's composure cracked. Adrian noticed, but only for a second. Eleanor, he said, you have accused Beatrice of theft, forgery, and now poisoning. Do you understand how this appears? Do you understand how it appears that you ask me that before examining the tea? His silence gave her the answer. Beatrice stepped toward the fireplace. Perhaps the Duchess drugged it herself. Her shoe touched the edge of the carpet above the hidden panel. Eleanor moved between them. What are you protecting? Beatrice asked. A passage into my bedchamber. Adrian stared at the wall. Eleanor showed him the panel, the new handle, and the blue cord. The cabinet was moved to conceal this entrance on Beatrice's instructions, she said. The maid who carried the tea has given her account to Sir Matthew. Beatrice recovered quickly. I ordered the furniture moved because the room was cold. If a passage exists, Eleanor knew of it long before I did. Adrian ran his thumb across the new screw. Eleanor saw the contradiction enter his mind. The fitting was recent. Someone had paid a mason, obtained access to the west apartments, and known she would be placed there. He could no longer pretend everything came from Eleanor's imagination. Bring me the repair accounts, he ordered. Beatrice went still. Eleanor crossed to her writing desk and opened the lowest drawer. The official account book was gone. In its place lay a single payment order for work in the east wall. It carried Eleanor's signature. Adrian snatched it up. Is this yours? The shape is mine. The pressure is not. Beatrice exhaled softly. Another forgery only you can recognize. Eleanor pointed to the bottom of the page, then asked the man who witnessed it. A second signature appeared beneath hers, the signature of Blackmere's senior steward, a man who had served Adrian's father for 30 years. He was the one person Beatrice had dismissed the morning after the hidden masonry was completed. He is still in the village, Eleanor said. Send for him now. Ask him who ordered the work, who paid the mason, and whether I ever touched that paper. 2. Adrian held the payment order between them. For the first time, Eleanor had given him a path to the truth that required no trust in her at all. The evidence had given Adrian one clear path to the truth. He chose not to take it. Adrian needed only to follow the evidence. Instead, he folded the payment order and placed it inside his coat. I will question the steward when he is found, he said. When he is found, Eleanor repeated. I told you where he is. Beatrice answered before Adrian could. He is no longer in the village. I sent 2 men for him this afternoon. His cottage was empty, and 3 missing silver spoons were discovered beneath his floorboards. Eleanor looked at Adrian. You knew this? I learned it while you were inspecting the chamber. And you did not wonder why stolen silver appeared in the home of the only man who could identify the person who ordered the secret masonry. He fled, or he was forced to leave. Beatrice shook her head sadly. Every guilty person becomes another victim when Eleanor tells the story. Adrian moved toward the door. Eleanor caught his sleeve. Send royal guards to the cottage. not Beatrice's men. His gaze dropped to her hand. Years ago, that touch could stop him in the middle of any room. Now he removed her fingers, one by one. I will not have the crown tramping through Blackmere because you distrust every member of my household. This is no longer your household alone. Royal correspondence was hidden inside your walls. And who understood those walls better than anyone? The accusation was quieter than before, which made it worse. Eleanor stepped back. The answer you want has not changed, simply because the facts have. A knock sounded. Sir Matthew entered, carrying the sealed letter and a leather folder. The Crown Clerk cannot arrive before dawn, he said. However, I have received an additional order from London. He placed a document on the table. 3 royal dispatches had vanished during the previous month. Each had last been recorded at a coaching inn 6 miles from Blackmere. One contained the names of witnesses due to testify against a powerful smuggling syndicate. Eleanor thought of the brass anchor button found inside the hidden desk. This was not merely an attempt to ruin her. Someone was using Blackmere Castle as a transfer point for stolen crown documents. Sir Matthew turned to Adrian. Until the missing dispatches are recovered, no person may leave the estate. Beatrice moved toward the window. Eleanor saw the motion. So did the royal guard. Lady Beatrice, Eleanor said, where is the key ring? Beatrice touched her waist. The ring was gone. Adrian stared at the empty chain. You had it in the hidden chamber. I returned it to the steward's office. You did not, Eleanor said. We passed that office together. You never entered it. Beatrice's face paled. Then a cry rang from the corridor. A footman rushed into the room, blood running from a cut above his brow. The north gate has been opened, he gasped. Someone struck the gatekeeper and took a horse. Sir Matthew immediately ordered his guards to seal the road. Eleanor crossed to the window. In the fading light, a rider moved toward the trees. A second figure waited near the gate. There are 2 of them, she said. Beatrice suddenly grabbed the sealed perfume bottle from the desk and threw it into the fire. The glass shattered. Flames leaped blue around the drugged tea. You destroyed evidence, Eleanor said. I destroyed poison before someone could drink it. Sir Matthew seized Beatrice's wrist. Adrian stepped forward. Release her. Your cousin has interfered with a royal inquiry. She panicked. She knew precisely which bottle mattered. Adrian's gaze moved from the broken glass to Beatrice's face. She looked frightened now, but not helpless. Eleanor waited for him to recognize the difference. Instead, Beatrice began to cry. I have tried only to protect this family, she said. Eleanor despised me from the day I arrived. She told me Adrian would cast me out once my mourning ended. I believed she had hidden the silver to make me appear dishonest. Eleanor, I never said that, Eleanor replied. Beatrice pulled a folded note from her sleeve. She wrote this. Adrian opened it. The handwriting resembled Eleanor's. It instructed the former steward to open the north gate at the evening bell, take the missing dispatches, and meet a shipmaster identified only by an anchor. Sir Matthew's expression became guarded. The brass button, Adrian said. Placed in the chamber to support the letter, Eleanor replied. Or dropped by your contact. Eleanor felt the room turn against her. Beatrice had connected the silver, the hidden chamber, the dismissed steward, the north gate, and the stolen dispatches in one simple story. It was false, but it was easy to understand. The truth required Adrian to admit he had granted authority to the wrong woman. He looked again at the note. Sir Matthew spoke carefully. This evidence is not yet authenticated. I advise that no sworn accusation be made until the Crown Clerk examines both letters. By dawn, the dispatches may be gone, Adrian said. Then, search the grounds. Do not accuse your wife of treason on an imitation of her hand. Adrian walked to the writing desk. Eleanor saw the decision forming before he reached for the pen. What are you doing? Giving Sir Matthew authority to hold you until the investigation is complete. The envoy did not request that authority. No, Sir Matthew said. I did not. Beatrice approached Adrian. If Eleanor is innocent, confinement will protect her. The same argument, the same trap. Eleanor moved between Adrian and the ink. You refused to wait this morning. That gave them the image of a confined wife. If you refuse to wait now, you will give them a sworn statement that I acted against the crown. I cannot ignore this letter. You ignored the passage into my bedroom. You ignored the drugged tea. You ignored the new masonry and the missing keys. Do not pretend caution guides you, only when the evidence points toward me. Adrian's hand tightened around the pen. She lowered her voice. If you sign that accusation without examining the witness I named, our marriage ends here. Not in law, perhaps, but in every place that matters. Pain crossed his face. For 1 second, she believed he might stop. Then wounded pride erased it. He signed. Sir Matthew did not touch the document. You understand, the envoy said, that this is a sworn declaration accusing the Duchess of Blackmere of assisting the theft of royal dispatches. I understand. And, if it is false, the responsibility is yours. Adrian placed the pen down. Yes. The word settled between them like a locked door. As the guards waited at the door, Adrian caught Eleanor's hand. I am trying to protect Blackmere. She looked down at the fingers that had once fastened her wedding bracelet and had now signed away her freedom. No, she said. You are protecting the version of yourself that cannot admit he was wrong. His grip loosened. If I am innocent. When you are proved innocent, he corrected. Eleanor lifted her eyes to his. That correction came 5 hours too late. She removed her hand and walked toward the guards without waiting to be taken. Sir Matthew could not leave Eleanor unguarded after a formal accusation from the owner of the estate. He ordered her moved to the gatehouse tower, where royal soldiers, not Blackmere servants, would control the entrance. Beatrice had obtained exactly what she needed. Eleanor would be removed from the castle before the final forged letter was opened. As the guards escorted her across the courtyard, she looked up at the eastern wall. A narrow light flashed 3 times from the hidden chamber. Once, twice, 3 times. An answering lantern appeared beyond the north woods. Eleanor stopped. The rider fleeing through the gate was a distraction. The real exchange had not happened yet. And according to the old survey map, the underground passage beneath the gatehouse tower continued beyond the estate wall, ending beside the very road used by the royal courier. Whatever Blackmere's conspirators intended to steal, they would move it beneath Eleanor's prison before dawn. The gatehouse tower had 1 visible entrance, 2 barred windows, and a passage beneath its floor that did not appear on Adrian's modern plans. Eleanor noticed the loose flagstone before the guards locked the door. Do not leave me alone here, she said. The tunnel runs beneath this room. The older royal guard tested the stone with his boot. It did not move. We will remain outside, Your Grace. Outside is the wrong side of the door. The younger guard hesitated, but Adrian's signed accusation required them to treat Eleanor as a possible traitor. They could protect her from escape or attack, but they could not remain inside her chamber without Sir Matthew's permission. The key turned. Eleanor was alone. She crossed to the narrow window. The north road appeared empty, but the answering lantern beyond the woods had vanished. Someone was already moving. Eleanor knelt beside the loose flagstone and examined its edges. Fresh scratches marked one side. The stone was not an entrance. It was a signal plate. She pressed it once. Nothing happened. She pressed it twice. A faint bell answered beneath the floor. 3 flashes from the eastern chamber. An answering light in the woods. Now a bell hidden beneath the tower. The castle's secret passages formed more than an escape route. They were a communication system. A wheel rattled on the road. Eleanor stood. 2 lanterns appeared between the trees, followed by a closed royal carriage and 4 mounted escorts. The missing dispatches were not being taken away from Blackmere. A new dispatch was being brought toward it. The carriage should have remained on the King's Highway. Instead, it turned beneath the open north gate. Someone had changed the courier's route. Eleanor struck the tower door with both fists. Guard. The older soldier opened the viewing panel. A royal carriage is entering the estate. Stop it before it reaches the gatehouse. We received no notice of a courier. That is why you must stop it. Hooves thundered across the courtyard. The carriage passed beneath Eleanor's window. A Blackmere crest had been hung above the arch, covering the royal road marker beneath it. In darkness, the driver would believe the estate road was the official route. Eleanor understood the purpose of the stolen keys. Beatrice had not needed access only to rooms. The largest key opened the iron case containing Blackmere's old road signs and ceremonial crests. Eleanor had stored them after discovering travellers were occasionally misdirected near the north gate. Adrian had handed Beatrice the means to repeat the danger deliberately. A gunshot split the night. The royal guards outside Eleanor's door ran toward the courtyard. Below, men in Blackmere livery surrounded the carriage. One escort fell from his horse, another reached for his pistol, but a man struck him from behind. Eleanor pulled at the bars across her window. They were fixed into the stone. She looked around the tower room, a narrow bed, a chair, an empty hearth, and a rusted chain descending through the ceiling. The chain had once operated the gatehouse warning bell. Her father had shown her similar mechanisms. When castles modernized, bells were often abandoned in place rather than removed. The chain appeared broken, but the final link had merely been hooked behind a ceiling bracket. For one moment, Eleanor rested her forehead against the cold window bars. She had defended Adrian's estate, his tenants, and even the family name he had used to condemn her. A bitter part of her wanted to let Blackmere suffer the consequence of his choice. Then she saw the wounded royal driver below. The innocent men in the courtyard had not betrayed her. Eleanor wiped her eyes and reached for the chain. Whatever Adrian deserved, she would not purchase his punishment with innocent blood. Eleanor dragged the chair beneath it and climbed. Another gunshot sounded. The royal driver shouted for help. Eleanor reached the chain and pulled it free. The weight nearly tore her from the chair. She wrapped both hands around the iron and dropped. Above the tower, a bell that had remained silent for 50 years began to ring. Its first strike shook dust from the ceiling. The second rolled across the courtyard. By the third, every servant in Blackmere was awake. Lights appeared in the village below. Stable hands ran toward the gate. Tenant farmers who remembered Eleanor organizing food during the winter flood came carrying lanterns and tools. The attackers had expected silence. Eleanor gave them witnesses. One man climbed onto the royal carriage and tore a leather dispatch case from the courier's hands. He ran toward the tower, not away from it. The tunnel entrance was beneath Eleanor's room. She jumped from the chair and pushed the bed over the signal stone. Then she wedged its wooden frame between the floor and the wall. A heavy blow struck from below. The flagstone lifted half an inch. Eleanor threw her weight onto the bed. Another blow. The frame shuddered. "Open it!" a man shouted beneath her. She recognized the voice from behind the chapel screen. A third strike cracked one of the bed legs. Eleanor looked toward the locked door. The royal guards had not returned. She could release the bed, hide beside the hearth, and allow the man to escape with the dispatch case. Instead, she climbed onto the frame and pressed her full weight above the stone. The flagstone slammed against the wood. A pistol fired beneath the floor. The ball tore through the mattress inches from her hand. Smoke curled from the hole. Eleanor did not move. Outside, swords struck against iron. A horse screamed. Then Adrian's voice rose above the chaos, ordering the gate closed. Too late. He no longer knew which servants obeyed him, which men wore stolen Blackmere livery, or who possessed the keys to his own gates. The authority he had transferred that morning had become a weapon against the crown. The tower door finally opened. Sir Matthew entered with 2 soldiers. "Step away from the floor." They dragged the bed aside and lifted the flagstone. The tunnel below was empty. The attacker had retreated, but dark blood marked one rung. The pistol had injured him when it fired in the narrow shaft. Sir Matthew descended with a lantern. Eleanor followed before anyone could stop her. The passage ended at a stone loading room beneath the north wall. The stolen dispatch case lay open on the ground. Most of its papers remained inside. One envelope was missing. Adrian entered behind them, breathing hard. Blood stained his sleeve, though the wound appeared shallow. "We captured 3 men," he said. "The others escaped through the woods." Sir Matthew lifted the dispatch case. "They wore your livery and entered through your gate. They were imposters. They possessed your keys." Adrian looked at Eleanor. The consequence had finally reached him in a form rank could not dismiss. Sir Matthew removed Adrian's sworn accusation from his coat. "By confining the one person who understood these passages, you placed her above the route used to attack a royal courier. Had she not sounded the alarm, every dispatch would be gone." Adrian's face lost its colour. "What was in the missing envelope?" Eleanor asked. Sir Matthew examined the courier's inventory. "A list of crown witnesses and the places where they are being protected." Eleanor thought of the former steward's empty cottage and the silver planted beneath his floor. "He did not flee," she said. "He was taken because his name is on that list." Sir Matthew found the entry. The former steward was due to testify against a coastal smuggling ring connected to stolen government correspondence. Beside his name was a temporary refuge, an abandoned toll house 12 miles north of Blackmere. Adrian reached for his coat. "We ride now." "No," Sir Matthew said. Royal soldiers entered the loading room and removed their hats. One carried an official seal. "Until the Crown determines how your household became the centre of this attack, your authority as Lord Lieutenant is suspended. Blackmere Castle and its records are now under royal control." Adrian stared at the seal, being pressed across the loading room door. He had signed away his wife's freedom. Before the night ended, that choice had cost him command of his own estate. Eleanor looked again at the courier inventory. The toll house stood near a tidal river. At dawn, the lower road would flood and erase every carriage track leading away from it. They had less than 6 hours to find the steward and recover the stolen witness list. If they failed, Beatrice's allies would know the location of every person capable of exposing them. "We leave within 10 minutes, Eleanor said. Sir Matthew studied the flooded road markings on the courier inventory. "You remain under accusation. And I am the only person here who knows the old northern boundary paths." Adrian stepped forward. "I know my own estate. You know the roads used for hunting. The toll house lies beyond the marshland your father sold 20 years ago." The distinction silenced him. Sir Matthew considered Eleanor's request, then ordered 6 royal soldiers to prepare horses. They would travel through the village rather than the castle grounds. "You may guide us," he said, "but you will remain beside my men." "Agreed." "I am coming," Adrian said. Sir Matthew shook his head. "Your authority is suspended. My steward is in danger because of my household." Eleanor looked at him, not because of his household, because of his choice. Perhaps he saw the correction in her face. "Because I gave Beatrice the keys," he said quietly. It was the first time he had named his own part in the disaster. Eleanor felt no relief. Truth spoken only after consequence was not the same as trust offered before it. "You may come," she told him, "but you will issue no orders. You will not speak for me, and you will not ask me to defend you before the Crown. I remember that. I remember. 3:10 day. I remember." Adrian's pride resisted. She saw it in the tightening of his mouth. Then he nodded. They rode into the village beneath the sound of the old warning bell. Families stood outside their cottages. Several men who had answered the alarm carried farm tools darkened with blood from the struggle at the gate. When Eleanor passed, they bowed to her. Not to Adrian. A widow stepped from the crowd and pressed a wool cloak into Eleanor's hands. "You will freeze before the marsh, Your Grace." Adrian recognized the woman. "Your cottage roof was repaired last spring. Her Grace paid the carpenter when the estate office refused," the widow said. Eleanor fastened the cloak without looking at her husband. The payment had come from her pin money. She had never told Adrian because she believed a duchess should not require praise for keeping a tenant dry. Now, she wondered how many quiet acts had allowed him to mistake her work for the natural order of his estate. They converted the village schoolhouse into a temporary inquiry room. Sir Matthew left 2 guards there, with the evidence recovered from the hidden chamber. Every item was listed, wrapped, sealed, and signed by 2 witnesses. For the first time, Beatrice's influence stopped at a doorway. At the village schoolhouse, Sir Matthew sealed the evidence and recorded each witness separately. The brass anchor button and the mason's repair order both pointed toward the same coastal contractor. For the first time, Eleanor possessed more than suspicion. She had a name connecting Blackmere's hidden chamber to the stolen royal dispatches. Then, the party continued north. The road disappeared beneath reeds after 4 miles, but Eleanor followed a raised stone boundary, visible only where moonlight touched the grass. Her father had shown it to her during the first year of her marriage. Adrian rode behind her in silence. At the edge of the tidal river, the abandoned toll house emerged through the darkness. One shutter hung open. No light burned inside. Sir Matthew signalled his soldiers to surround the building. Eleanor dismounted. Adrian caught her reins. "Stay here. You agreed not to give orders." "I am asking." The fear in his voice was real. Once, she might have mistaken it for enough. She handed the reins to a soldier and approached the door with Sir Matthew. Inside, they found the former steward tied to a chair. His face was bruised, and dried blood marked his collar, but he was alive. Eleanor cut the cloth from his mouth. "Your Grace," he whispered, "they said you had accused me. I knew you would not steal from Blackmere." His eyes closed briefly. Behind her, Adrian stopped in the doorway. The steward looked at him and said nothing. Sir Matthew loosened the ropes. Who brought you here? Two men in the Duke's livery. The new household mistress gave them my cottage key. Lady Beatrice? Sir Matthew asked. Two. Yes. Adrian's hand closed around the doorframe. The steward reached inside his coat and removed a narrow strip of paper protected by waxed cloth. They searched me twice, he said. They did not know my wife sewed this beneath the lining. It was the original mason's receipt, bearing Beatrice's true signature and the anchor seal of the coastal contractor. Sir Matthew read it aloud before the royal soldiers. He copied it into his field book, and the former steward confirmed when and where Beatrice had ordered the secret masonry. The proof was fragile, but it was no longer carried by Eleanor's word alone. Adrian knelt beside the injured steward. Why did you not come to me? I tried. The old man's voice held no anger, which made the answer more devastating. Lady Beatrice told me your grace had forbidden any discussion of the eastern repairs. When I sent a note through your valet, I received my dismissal the next morning. I gave no such instruction. You gave her the household. Adrian lowered his head. The steward continued. Her grace noticed the accounts were wrong. She asked for 1 day to prove it. Eleanor looked away. Adrian had given her less than an hour. Sir Matthew searched the room and found a recently opened dispatch envelope in the hearth. The witness list was gone, but one torn corner remained beneath the grate. Sir Matthew compared the torn envelope with the forged letters. They came from the same stolen supply, Eleanor said. Whoever forged my imprisonment also possessed the Crown's dispatches. Before Sir Matthew could answer, the toll house window shattered. The forged letters and the stolen Crown list came from the same supply, she said. The conspirators prepared the accusations using paper taken from royal dispatches. Sir Matthew's expression sharpened. Then opening the final letter tomorrow may reveal knowledge only the thieves could possess. A soldier shouted. A burning bottle struck the floor. Flames raced across the dry boards. Sir Matthew pulled the steward toward the door. Adrian tore down a curtain and beat at the fire while Eleanor seized the royal evidence case from the table. Smoke filled the room. A masked man appeared at the rear entrance. He struck Sir Matthew, grabbed the case from Eleanor, and fled toward the river. Adrian pursued him into the darkness. A gunshot echoed across the marsh. Then came the sound of a horse entering deep water. Eleanor reached the riverbank as the masked rider disappeared through the reeds with the sealed evidence. Adrian stood knee-deep in the current, one hand pressed to his bleeding shoulder. The original receipt, the anchor button, the forged repair order, and the final unopened letter were gone. Across the river, a lantern flashed once. Someone had carried their proof back to Beatrice. The masked rider escaped with the evidence, but the tide prevented pursuit. By the time Eleanor and the royal party returned to Blackmere, dawn had begun to whiten the eastern sky. Adrian's shoulder had been bandaged. The former steward rode in a guarded cart, and Sir Matthew carried nothing except his field book. The original proof was gone. Beatrice was waiting in the great hall. She had gathered the household, 2 local magistrates, and every tenant who had answered the warning bell. She stood beneath the Blackmere crest, with the missing key ring at her waist. A burned leather case lay on the table before her. Sir Matthew stopped. My evidence case. It was found near the river road, Beatrice said. A shepherd saw Eleanor's former steward throw it into the flames. The old man struggled against the soldiers supporting him. That is a lie. Beatrice turned toward the magistrates. He is accused of stealing the Duke's silver. Naturally, he will say whatever the Duchess requires. Eleanor approached the table. The case had been cut open before it was burned. The brass anchor button was gone. The mason's receipt had become ash, and the unopened letter had been reduced to a blackened seal. Only the forged payment order remained recognizable. Her imitation signature appeared above the steward's name. Beatrice had destroyed the original evidence while preserving the accusation. You arranged this gathering quickly, Eleanor said. The estate deserves to know why armed criminals entered its gates. And you decided the answer before we returned. I read what the evidence showed. You burned what it showed. A magistrate raised his hand. Lady Beatrice did not possess this case until it was brought to the hall. 6 people witnessed its arrival. 6 witnesses to the final step, Eleanor thought. None to what had happened beside the river. Beatrice had built her defence from carefully separated actions. One man forged a letter, another laid bricks, another stole the evidence. Each accomplice knew only enough to perform his task. Sir Matthew opened his field book. The original mason's receipt named Lady Beatrice as the person who ordered the work. Beatrice smiled faintly, yet no such receipt exists. I copied it in the presence of royal soldiers. You copied a paper produced by a man accused of theft. The field record preserved the testimony, but without the original signature and contractor's seal, it could be challenged. Beatrice reached beneath the table and lifted a packet tied with blue cord. These were found in Eleanor's private desk after she left the castle. Sir Matthew took the packet. Inside were 3 letters addressed to the coastal contractor. Each described the secret chamber, the courier route, and the location of the hidden shaft. Each bore Eleanor's hand. The final letter ordered the contractor to abduct the former steward before he could speak. Adrian read it. His face emptied. Eleanor did not ask whether he believed her. She would not place her dignity in his hands again. "Where was my desk key?" she asked. "With the castle keys," Beatrice replied. "In your possession." A murmur passed through the tenants. Beatrice realized her mistake and corrected quickly. "In the steward's office, where any servant might have taken it. You said the key ring was there yesterday, yet it disappeared before the north gate was opened. I was mistaken about when I returned it. You were mistaken about possessing the black key, mistaken about the tea, mistaken about the cabinet moved across the passage. Every mistake gives you access, and every accusation gives me motive." The magistrate struck the table. "This is not a trial." "No," Eleanor said. "It is a performance arranged by the person controlling the stage." Beatrice's expression sharpened. She turned to the crowd. "The Duchess wants you to believe I built secret rooms, stole royal letters, and commanded armed smugglers. Why would a dependent widow attempt such madness?" The question had power because Eleanor could not yet prove the answer. Sir Matthew spoke. "The Crown Clerk has arrived. He will compare every document." A thin man entered carrying an ink case and several authenticated samples of Eleanor's writing. For nearly an hour, he examined the letters in silence. At last, he faced the magistrates. "The formation of the letters is highly consistent with the Duchess's hand." Adrian closed his eyes. Beatrice's victory appeared complete. Then the clerk added, "That does not prove she wrote them. A skilled imitator may reproduce shape. Pressure, speed, and natural variation are more difficult to judge without the original writing instruments." "The Duchess's pens were found beside the letters," Beatrice said. Again, she had prepared the answer. Sir Matthew looked toward Eleanor. He could delay an arrest, but he could no longer dismiss the accusations. Adrian stepped into the center of the hall. "The fault is mine." Beatrice turned. "Adrian." "No." His voice carried across the room. "I gave Lady Beatrice the keys. I permitted her to dismiss servants, access my wife's papers, and control the gates. Eleanor asked me to wait while the evidence was examined. I refused." The magistrates exchanged uneasy looks. Adrian removed the silver badge of the Lord Lieutenant from his coat and placed it on the table. "I accused my wife because believing her guilty spared me from admitting that I had surrendered my judgment to flattery. I signed a sworn statement without authenticating the letter placed before me. If the Crown brings a charge of negligence against Blackmere, I will answer it." The admission cost him more than pride. It confirmed before magistrates and tenants that he had failed in a royal office, misused his household authority, and enabled the attack on the courier. Beatrice stared at him with open hatred. But Adrian's confession did not clear Eleanor. Sir Matthew was forced to order her kept under guard until the royal inquiry at noon. The crowd began to disperse. Eleanor looked at the black key hanging from Beatrice's ring. Red brick dust still marked its teeth. Then she remembered how Beatrice had reached for the black key before anyone revealed that the chamber possessed a concealed lock. Whoever arranged the chamber had wanted to know whether someone entered it. More importantly, she had just claimed the forged letters were found in Eleanor's desk, but the final letter listed in the chamber had never been sent. It had been sealed inside Sir Matthew's case before Beatrice stole it. Beatrice could destroy the letter, but she could not know its exact contents unless she had written it or opened it after the theft. Eleanor turned to Sir Matthew. "Do you remember the inventory number written on the final envelope?" "Yes." "And did your field book record its address but not its contents?" His eyes sharpened. "Correct." Eleanor looked toward the royal map, still lying in the hidden chamber. The old survey showed a second door no one had yet opened, a door that could be reached only from inside the sealed room. Now, she knew how to force Beatrice into a lie that could be witnessed and verified. At noon, Eleanor said, "Ask Lady Beatrice to explain where the missing royal dispatches were hidden." Sir Matthew lowered his voice. "She will deny knowing. Then we shall show her the wrong room." He studied her face. Eleanor looked once more at the black key. "And let her correct us." At noon, the royal inquiry began in Blackmere's great hall. Sir Matthew placed guards at every door. The former steward sat beside the crown clerk, protected by 2 soldiers. The maid who had carried the drugged tea waited behind a screen so Beatrice could not threaten her before she testified. Eleanor entered without the castle keys and without Adrian at her side. Beatrice stood beneath the family crest, still wearing the iron ring taken from Eleanor that morning. The sight no longer humiliated her. It proved who had possessed access. 2 magistrates, the household servants, and more than 30 tenants filled the room. Adrian sat at a separate table, his injured shoulder bound beneath his coat. The badge of his suspended office remained before Sir Matthew. Beatrice attacked first. "The Duchess understood these passages better than anyone," she told the inquiry. "She arranged the hidden chamber, forged letters suggesting her own imprisonment, and planned to accuse me after the royal dispatches disappeared." Sir Matthew looked up from his field book. Why would she forge evidence of her imprisonment before the Duke confined find her? To create sympathy. How could she know he would remove her keys that morning? She provoked him by hiding the silver. Silver later found in the cottage of the only witness to the masonry. Beatrice faced the magistrates. The steward served Eleanor. They acted together. The former steward rose despite his injuries. "I served Blackmere for 30 years. You were dismissed for dishonesty." "I was dismissed the morning after I tried to warn the Duke about your repair order." Beatrice pointed at him. He produced a convenient receipt that no longer exists. Sir Matthew opened his field book. 4 people witnessed me copy that receipt before the evidence case was stolen. Each line appears here, including the coastal contractor's name and Lady Beatrice's signature. "A copy is not an original." "True," Sir Matthew said, "which is why the Crown will not rely upon it alone." Eleanor stepped forward. On the table lay the old royal survey map and a cleaner copy prepared that morning. 1 narrow passage had been added to the copy in red ink. "The forged letters claimed I was imprisoned in the hidden chamber," Eleanor said. But the room had never been occupied. The water jug was full, yet dry around its inner rim. Dust covered the wax beneath recently burned candles. My shawl had been placed on the cot, but no fibres from my clothing appeared anywhere else. Beatrice smiled. "Observations only you can confirm. The royal guards saw the room before anyone moved its contents." "Then perhaps you arranged it carefully." Eleanor nodded. "Let us assume I did." The easy agreement unsettled Beatrice. Eleanor continued. "To stage the room, I would require 3 things. Knowledge of the chamber, access through its concealed door, and the black key." She pointed to Beatrice's waist. "That key has remained in Lady Beatrice's possession since Adrian stripped me of the ring, only because he gave it to me." "Exactly." A murmur moved through the hall. Beatrice's expression tightened. "Possession after the crime proves nothing. Then we will examine possession before it." Eleanor called the maid from behind the screen. The girl described the drugged tea and Beatrice's threat to remove her sick mother from an estate cottage. She also identified the instruction to move the cabinet over the passage into Eleanor's bedchamber. Beatrice denied every word. Adrian rose. "I heard my cousin admit that she had ordered the cabinet moved." The hall fell quiet. Eleanor did not look at him. His statement could authenticate his own knowledge, but it could not solve the case for her. Sir Matthew asked, "Did Lady Beatrice tell you why?" "She said the room was cold." "Did you verify that?" "No." "Did you verify the contents of the tea?" "No." "Did you verify the repair order before accusing your wife?" Adrian's voice dropped. "No." Each answer removed another shelter from Beatrice's story. Eleanor placed the sealed field record beside the map. "The chamber was prepared before Adrian confined me. The passage into my rooms was opened before I was ordered there. The north gate was altered before the royal carriage arrived." Each act required access, created by one decision. She turned toward her husband. "He gave my keys and household authority to Lady Beatrice." Adrian met the eyes of the tenants. I did. Beatrice laughed with sudden contempt. So this entire inquiry rests upon the fact that a husband trusted the wrong woman? No, Eleanor said. It rests upon what the wrong woman knew. Sir Matthew lifted the copied survey map. Crown soldiers searched the second chamber this morning, he announced. They found the missing witness list in a recess behind the southern chapel wall. Beatrice reacted before caution could stop her. That is impossible. Sir Matthew lowered the map. Why? The southern passage was sealed decades ago. No one moved. Beatrice's eyes flicked toward Eleanor. Eleanor asked, "How do you know?" "It appears on the survey." "No. The map shows a passage, not whether it was sealed. I heard the Duchess discuss it." "With whom?" Beatrice hesitated. "The steward." The old man shook his head. "I did not know the passage existed until yesterday." Eleanor touched the red line on the copied map. "The southern passage does not exist. I added it this morning." Beatrice's face changed. Sir Matthew folded the false copy and revealed the untouched royal original beneath it. No southern passage appeared. "You claim knowledge of a sealed corridor that was invented after you lost access to the map," Eleanor said. "You also knew the witness list was not there." "Oh, I assumed, because you know where it actually is." "I know nothing of the kind." Eleanor approached her slowly. "Then correct no more mistakes." She turned to Sir Matthew. "The second door is not in the chapel. According to the original survey, it opens from the hidden chamber into the space behind the library hearth." "Nah. Kamer." Beatrice said nothing. "The door has no outside handle," Eleanor continued. "It can be released only by inserting the black key into a lock beneath the chamber's writing desk." Several servants looked at the key ring. Beatrice stepped backward. Sir Matthew extended his hand. "The black key?" "No." A royal guard moved behind her. Beatrice tore the ring from her waist and threw it toward the fire. Eleanor caught it before it reached the flames. The iron keys struck her palm with the same cold weight she had felt when Adrian took them from her. This time, no one ordered her to surrender them. The inquiry moved to the hidden chamber. Before entering, Sir Matthew counted every person present and placed one guard at each passage. The Crown Clerk carried fresh paper and sealing wax. The former steward remained in the hall under protection. Eleanor inserted the black key beneath the writing desk. The concealed mechanism released. A section of the inner wall opened onto a second narrow room. Inside stood a locked oak chest marked with the faded crown emblem. Blue mason's cord had been tied around its handles. A brass anchor button lay on top. Beatrice stopped breathing. Sir Matthew examined the chest without touching it. "There is wax across the lock." The seal appeared unbroken. Eleanor leaned closer. Pressed into the dark red wax was the private signet of the coastal contractor named on the destroyed receipt. But beside the anchor emblem appeared a second impression, smaller, sharper, and concealed beneath one fold of cord. Adrian recognized it first. His face turned white. Sir Matthew raised his magnifying glass. The second seal belonged to a member of the Blackmere family, and when the Crown Clerk authenticated its owner, the entire conspiracy would finally have a name. The Crown Clerk examined the smaller impression beneath the blue cord. No one spoke. At last, he lowered the magnifying glass. "This seal belongs to Lady Beatrice." Beatrice's denial came instantly. "My seal was stolen." "From where?" Sir Matthew asked. "My dressing room." "When?" "I cannot remember." Eleanor stepped beside the chest. "You remembered a passage that never existed. You remembered where the keys had supposedly been returned. Yet you cannot remember when the signet bearing your own name disappeared." Beatrice looked toward Adrian. He did not move to protect her. Sir Matthew ordered the Crown Clerk to record the condition of the wax. 2 magistrates witnessed the unbroken seals before Eleanor inserted the black key. It did not fit the chest. Beatrice laughed with visible relief. "There, your entire spectacle proves nothing." Eleanor examined the lock. The black key was not made for the chest. She turned it over. Red dust remained between its teeth, but one edge bore a thin smear of dark red wax. It opened the concealed room. Someone then pressed it into the chest seal, while the wax was soft. Sir Matthew understood. To prove the same key had controlled both locations. "No," Eleanor said, "to identify which key must be destroyed if the chamber was discovered." Beatrice had thrown the entire ring toward the fire because she could not remove the black key without revealing which one mattered. Eleanor lifted the smallest brass key from the ring. It entered the chest lock. The lid opened. Inside lay the 3 missing royal dispatches, the stolen witness list, and the original Mason's receipt bearing Beatrice's signature. Beside them rested Eleanor's missing account book and a wooden box containing sharpened pens cut to imitate the width of her handwriting. The Crown Clerk opened the final forged letter. Its contents matched the pattern recorded in Sir Matthew's field book. It claimed Eleanor had discovered Adrian's involvement in stealing royal correspondence and feared he would kill her before dawn. The letter had been written before Adrian confined her. Beatrice had gambled that his pride would make the lie come true. Sir Matthew removed another document from the chest. It was an agreement between Beatrice and the coastal contractor. In exchange for the witness list, the contractor would erase the debts left by her late husband and pay her a share from every shipment protected by stolen government information. The agreement also promised passage to France after Eleanor and Adrian were charged. Beatrice had never intended to inherit Blackmere. She intended to profit from its destruction and escape before the Crown discovered how the castle had been used. "You required the keys," Eleanor said, "but you could not ask Adrian for them without a reason. So you removed silver, placed my ledger in my desk, and persuaded him that I was the thief." "Caw," the former steward spoke from the doorway. "When I questioned the Eastern repairs, she dismissed me and planted the silver in my cottage." "The hidden chamber gave her a place to forge the letters," Eleanor continued. "The delivery shaft allowed her men to move papers without crossing the corridors. The passage into my bedroom gave them a way to abduct me after the drugged tea took effect." Sir Matthew looked at Beatrice. "And the royal carriage?" "She replaced the road marker using the keys Adrian gave her," Eleanor said. "The attackers were meant to steal the new dispatch and escape beneath the gatehouse while I lay unconscious above them. If they were caught, my confinement and Adrian's sworn accusation would make me appear to be their leader." Beatrice's composure finally collapsed. "You think this house loved you?" she demanded. "You were useful, Eleanor. That was all. Adrian resented every time you corrected him. I merely gave his resentment somewhere to go." Eleanor looked at her husband. He did not deny it. That was the final truth. Beatrice had manipulated him, but she had not created his choices. She had offered suspicion, and Adrian had accepted it because suspicion protected his pride. Sir Matthew ordered Beatrice arrested for conspiracy against the Crown, theft of royal correspondence, attempted abduction, destruction of evidence, and complicity in the attack on the royal courier. The coastal contractors' agreement supplied names, meeting places, and payment dates. Warrants were issued before sunset. 3 armed accomplices captured at the North Gate identified the masked rider, who was arrested while trying to reach the coast with Sir Matthew's stolen case. The maid and her mother were placed under Crown protection. The former steward was publicly cleared and restored to his position, though he agreed to return only if Eleanor, not Beatrice, or Adrian controlled the household accounts. Then Adrian stood before the same servants and tenants who had watched him remove his wife's keys. He held his signed accusation in both hands. "I declared Eleanor guilty without examining the evidence," he said. "I ignored her warnings because admitting she was right felt, to me, like surrendering authority. In doing so, I surrendered Blackmere to criminals. No one looked away. I confined my wife. I placed her life in danger. I accused her under oath of betraying the Crown, though she was the person who saved its witnesses and dispatches." He tore the accusation once, then stopped. Eleanor stepped forward. "Do not destroy it." Adrian looked at her. "Keep it in the estate record," she said. "Public harm should not disappear merely because the man who caused it is ashamed." He placed the document on the table. The Crown permanently removed Adrian from the office of Lord Lieutenant. He paid restitution to the wounded courier guards, and every tenant threatened under Beatrice's authority. The unentailed house belonging to Eleanor's marriage settlement was transferred into an independent trust for her use, along with sufficient income to maintain it without his permission. He also signed an agreement granting her separate residence, control of her personal correspondence, and authority over the charitable and tenant funds she had built. Only after those protections were secured did Adrian ask to speak with her alone. They met in the great hall after everyone had gone. The iron key ring rested between them. "I loved you," he said. I think part of me still believed loving you excused the ways I failed you. It did not. I know. His injured shoulder bent as he lowered himself to one knee. Eleanor's breath caught, but she did not reach for him. I am not asking you to forgive me today, he said. I am asking permission to spend whatever years remain proving that I can tell the truth, even when it costs me. You may prove it, she replied, but you will do so from a distance. I will not return because you are sorry, and I will never again make myself smaller so that you may feel powerful. Pain crossed his face. He accepted it. Eleanor took the keys from the table. Months later, she opened the doors of her independent estate to the tenants, widows, and servants who had stood beside her. Adrian wrote every week, but visited only when invited. His restitution continued, whether she answered him or not. She did not promise reconciliation. She promised only that if trust ever returned, it would enter through a door she chose to open. On the first morning of spring, Adrian arrived without guards, title, or demand. He stopped outside the gate and waited. Eleanor stood on the other side, with the smallest brass key resting in her palm. After a long silence, she unlocked the gate, but she did not hand him the key.